You've probably heard that Japan's population is shrinking. Fewer babies, more elderly, and towns that feel strangely quiet. In the countryside, schools close, shops disappear, and villages slowly lose their energy. Even though Tokyo and Osaka bustle with people, step outside the big cities and it almost feels abandoned. It's like wandering down a street where the vending machines are gone, the usual chatter has vanished, and the wind rattles a broken sign. Most people think this is a modern problem. But Japan's population decline actually began hundreds of years ago. And the story behind it is far stranger, harsher, and more human than you might expect. Even when famine and disease weren't the main threat, war shaped family life. Samurai battles, peasant uprisings, and constant regional conflicts meant many men never made it home. Families couldn't count on having enough adult men to start or maintain households. And because so many men died young, families quickly learned that one or two children was often all they could manage. Food, land, and resources were scarce. Anything more, and the household risked collapse. Even when men survived the wars, Japanese families didn't automatically have lots of children. In towns and cities, space was tight, life was unpredictable, and every extra mouth meant more work, more rice, and more responsibility. Families learned that sometimes less was more. Parents often limited children for practical reasons. One or two healthy kids were easier to raise, educate, and eventually support the household. It wasn't that love was missing, but it was survival. Even in wealthy merchant families, adding a third child could mean cutting corners on food, education, or daily life. Fast forward to today, and the same pressures show up in modern life. Many Japanese struggle to find time for relationships, weighed down by long work hours, demanding careers, and daily stress. Mental health challenges, burnout, and sadly suicide have all made it harder for couples to start families. High living costs and small living spaces only make the choice more difficult. In other words, centuries of careful household planning and resource management have quietly shaped modern attitudes toward family size. People delay marriage, have fewer children, or skip them entirely. Practical decisions passed down through generations, now influenced by modern life. Even beyond war and social pressures, nature itself played a role in limiting families. Epidemics swept through towns and villages, crops failed, and typhoons or floods could destroy homes and fields in a single season. Families quickly learned that having more children wasn't always safe. Survival often meant being cautious with numbers. Child mortality was high, and losing a son or daughter could devastate a household. Parents had to balance hope with pragmatism. Too many mouths could strain the family, while too few meant no one to carry on the household. Over time, this cautious approach became ingrained in culture. Families planned not just for love or inheritance, but for survival against the unpredictability of nature. Even today, modern Japan doesn't face the same famines or epidemics. But this long-term legacy of surviving scarcity and disasters still shapes how families think about having children. Kind of like checking the fridge 3 times before deciding if you really have enough groceries for the week. The government has tried to help. They offer subsidies of up to 600,000 yen, $5,600 to $5,700 to newlywed couples, covering housing, moving costs, and other marriage expenses. Even couples with foreign nationals can qualify if they meet the age and income criteria. So if you've been thinking, maybe it's finally time to move in together, at least Japan will lend a hand. Here's the kicker. Even with all these efforts, the population decline continues. Why? Because long-term cultural, economic, and social patterns are hard to reverse. Men dying young in wars, harsh living conditions, centuries of careful family planning, and a historical tendency towards smaller families left a legacy that still shapes modern decisions. Old habits die harder than leftover rice you forgot in the fridge. Practical, careful, and stubborn, just like generations of Japanese families. If you found this journey through Japan's past and present interesting, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. There's plenty more strange, fascinating, and sometimes unsettling history coming your way. And hey, leave a comment. Which part of this story surprised you the most?